Hey there! Ever wondered what's really going on between Israel and Lebanon? The tension between these two nations has been simmering for decades, but recent events have brought it to a boiling point. Let's take a closer look at the intricate web of actions and reactions that are fueling this conflict. Let's dive into the hidden agenda behind Israel's military actions in Lebanon. So, here's the deal. The situation is far more complex than it appears on the surface. It's not just about military might, it's about political strategy, regional influence, and a long history of animosity. Israel has been carrying out a series of airstrikes and ground incursions in Lebanon. These operations are not random acts of aggression, but are part of a calculated strategy to weaken Hezbollah and other militant groups that pose a threat to Israel's security. These operations have led to casualties on both sides, with 8 Israeli soldiers and dozens of Lebanese civilians losing their lives. The human cost is staggering, and the impact on the civilian population is devastating. Families are torn apart, homes are destroyed, and communities are left in ruins. Israel claims these actions are necessary responses to attacks from Hezbollah and other groups. Hezbollah, a powerful militant organization backed by Iran, has been a thorn in Israel's side for years. Their rocket attacks and cross-border raids have forced Israel to take defensive measures. But Lebanon is calling for an immediate ceasefire. The Lebanese government, already struggling with economic and political instability, is desperate to end the violence and bring some semblance of normalcy to its citizens. Now, things got even more heated after an Iranian ballistic missile struck Israel. This was a significant escalation, signaling Iran's willingness to directly confront Israel in defense of its allies. This was Iran's way of retaliating against Israeli attacks on its allies in the region. Iran's involvement adds another layer of complexity to the conflict as it seeks to expand its influence in the Middle East and counterbalance Israel's power. In response, Israel vowed further retaliation, raising fears of a broader war. The cycle of violence seems unending, with each side responding to the other's actions with increasing force. This tit-for-tat escalation is displacing many civilians and heightening tensions. Refugee camps are swelling with people fleeing the violence, and the humanitarian crisis is worsening by the day. Adding more fuel to the fire, an Israeli drone from Lebanon struck a structure in Caesarea. The use of drones has become a common tactic in modern warfare, allowing for precision strikes, but also raising ethical and legal questions. There were no casualties, but it underscores the volatile security situation. The constant threat of drone strikes keeps the population on edge and adds to the overall sense of insecurity. Israel intercepted 2 other drones, but their origins and purposes remain unclear. The mystery surrounding these drones adds to the tension as both sides try to decipher each other's intentions. But why is Israel so invested in these actions? The answer lies in a combination of security concerns, political calculations, and regional dynamics. Israel aims to neutralize threats before they can materialize, but this approach often leads to unintended consequences. Some analysts suggest that Israel's military operations might be aimed at creating civil unrest in Lebanon. By destabilizing the country, Israel could weaken Hezbollah's grip and reduce the threat it poses. By targeting Hezbollah and other groups, Israel could be trying to weaken Lebanon's internal stability. This strategy, however, is fraught with risks, as it could backfire and lead to greater instability in the region. This would make it harder for these groups to launch attacks on Israel and potentially shift the balance of power in the region. The Middle East is a complex chessboard, and every move has far-reaching implications. Meanwhile, the international community isn't just sitting back. Global powers are closely monitoring the situation, aware that any escalation could have global repercussions. G7 defense ministers recently held their first-ever meeting, focusing on Ukraine, but also addressing the Middle East conflict. The interconnectedness of global conflicts means that instability in one region can have ripple effects elsewhere. Turkish President Erdogan even announced that Turkey is ready to welcome refugees from Lebanon, highlighting the humanitarian crisis. Turkey's involvement underscores the regional dimension of the conflict and the need for a coordinated response. In Paris, hundreds of people protested against Israeli airstrikes in Lebanon. The global outcry reflects widespread concern about the human cost of the conflict and the desire for a peaceful resolution. They're calling on France to halt arms sales to Israel and pressure it to stop its military operations. The role of arms sales in fueling conflicts is a contentious issue, with activists pushing for greater accountability. France, however, defends Israel's right to self-defense, showing the complex geopolitical stakes at play. Balancing national security interests with humanitarian concerns is a delicate act for any government. This growing international unease reflects the potential for this conflict to spiral out of control. The stakes are high, and the consequences of inaction could be dire. The situation in Lebanon is a tinderbox, with Israel's actions playing a significant role in the unrest. The fragile political and social fabric of Lebanon is being tested like never before. So keep an eye on this conflict. The developments in this region could have far-reaching implications for global stability and security. The interplay of military actions, political maneuvering and international responses could shape the region's future in ways we can't yet predict. Thanks for watching. Stay informed, stay curious. As we delve deeper into the Middle East, the situation becomes even more intricate. Beyond the conflict between Israel and Lebanon, the region is entangled in a web of broader conflicts that further complicate the quest for stability. The Syrian civil war has been raging for over a decade, drawing in multiple international actors. This conflict has not only led to a humanitarian disaster, but has also become a battleground for regional and global powers. Russia and Iran support the Assad regime, while the United States and various Gulf states back different rebel factions. The war has created a chaotic environment that extremist groups like ISIS have exploited, further destabilizing the region. Meanwhile, the Iran-Saudi Arabia proxy conflict is another significant factor. These two regional powerhouses are engaged in a bitter rivalry that spans across the Middle East. Their competition for influence is playing out in various countries, including Yemen, Iraq and Syria. In Yemen, a devastating civil war has pitted the Iran-backed Houthi rebels against the Saudi-led coalition, causing immense suffering and a humanitarian crisis of epic proportions. Iraq, too, remains a hotbed of instability. Despite the defeat of ISIS, the country struggles with internal divisions, corruption, and the influence of foreign powers. Iran wields considerable influence in Iraq, often clashing with US interests in the region. This tug-of-war further complicates Iraq's path to stability and development. These conflicts are deeply interconnected. For instance, Iran's support for Hezbollah in Lebanon is part of its broader strategy to extend its influence across the region. Saudi Arabia's actions in Yemen are a counter to Iran's regional ambitions. The Syrian civil war has drawn in fighters and resources from across the Middle East, fueling other conflicts. The ripple effects of these interconnected conflicts are profound. The humanitarian toll is staggering, with millions displaced and countless lives lost. Economically, the region is suffering, with infrastructure destroyed and development stalled. Politically, the instability has created power vacuums that extremist groups are all too eager to fill. The international community's efforts to address these issues are often hampered by competing interests and geopolitical rivalries. While some progress has been made in certain areas, a comprehensive solution seems elusive. The complex interplay of military actions, political maneuvering and international responses continues to shape the Middle East in unpredictable ways. Thank you for watching. Stay informed, stay curious. As the United States gears up for its presidential election, the world watches closely, particularly those in conflict-ridden regions like the Middle East. The outcome of this election could have profound implications for the conflicts in Lebanon and the broader Middle East. Historically, US foreign policy has played a pivotal role in shaping the dynamics of the region. The candidates' differing approaches could either escalate or de-escalate existing tensions. Let's delve into how the potential policies of the major candidates might affect the Middle East. If the incumbent president is re-elected, we can expect a continuation of the current administration's policies. This might include sustained support for Israel, a hardline stance against Iran, and a focus on counter-terrorism efforts. The administration's maximum pressure campaign against Iran has already strained relations and could further complicate the situation in Lebanon, where Iran-backed Hezbollah wields significant influence. On the other hand, if the challenger wins, there could be a shift towards diplomacy and re-engagement with international agreements. A potential re-entry into the Iran nuclear deal could ease some tensions and open channels for negotiation. However, this approach might face resistance from US allies in the region, particularly Israel and Saudi Arabia, who view Iran as a significant threat. In Lebanon, the US's stance on Hezbollah will be critical. The current administration's designation of Hezbollah as a terrorist organization has led to sanctions that have crippled Lebanon's economy. A new administration might take a different approach, possibly engaging in dialogue to stabilize the country, though this is fraught with challenges. The broader Middle East conflicts, including those in Syria, Yemen, and Iraq, will also be influenced by the election results. A continuation of the current administration's policies could mean sustained military presence and support for certain factions, while a new administration might prioritize diplomatic solutions and humanitarian aid. The international community's response will also be crucial. US foreign policy does not operate in a vacuum, and the reactions of other global powers, such as Russia and China, will shape the outcomes in the Middle East. The election's impact will ripple through global geopolitics, influencing alliances, economic sanctions, and military strategies. In conclusion, the upcoming US presidential election holds significant implications for the Middle East. The candidate's policies could either exacerbate existing conflicts or pave the way for new diplomatic initiatives. As the world watches, the people of the Middle East hope for a future where peace and stability are within reach. Thank you for watching. Stay informed, stay curious.